Let's take a look at the Brooks Cascadia 16. Here, my GTX version, but we also have in our full multi-tester review the regular version. So it's a $160 shoe. That is Brooks's kind of heavy-duty trail runner. It sits above, say, the ultra-focused Caldera and the kind of quick and fast Catamount. My version has the Invisible Fit upper, Gore-Tex upper, whereas my colleagues have the more normal upper. As a result, my pair weighs 12 ounces, 340 grams in a US 9, while their non-Gore-Tex versions weigh 11 ounces, 312 grams. Do not worry about the weight here. You're getting a lot of shoe and it's very runnable. We're going to give you some of the pros and cons, and then I'm going to give you my impressions from my first run. It has a 5mm lugged full coverage outsole with a ballistic rock plate and a brand new midsole foam in DNA Loft V2. This is not the soft and mushy kind of stuff you have in the Ghost or the Glycerin. It's a firmer foam, but with some energy. We all felt it had a lot of energy while remaining very stable. The GTX version is $160 and the regular version $130. They both release in August 2021. Okay, some pros and cons from Jeff Valeri out in Boulder. Roomy and accommodating, yet secure fit. Comfort. Soft all-day cushioning. Protection. Traction and response. Canis in Park City. I agree with Jeff's pros and will add that the styling has been greatly improved too. Jeff Beck, also in Colorado, agreed. Fit is great. Cushioning and protection are both top-notch. Toe box is great. Upper is Goldilocks level of hold build-up, and Jeff has a wider foot. Jacob said in Portland, Maine, comfortable, roomy, secure, protective, performant, and easygoing. I would agree with Jacob there. In terms of con, well, Canis and Jeff said maybe the weight, but you're getting so much for the weight, and I totally agree with that, so I'm stretching a bit. Jacob, and I agree a bit with Jacob here, fit is a bit boxy. Jeff Beck had some concerns about the traction is really good, but not quite great. And then Jacob also a bit the weight and the boxy fit. All the positive feedback from my colleagues. I took them out on my usual haunts in Stratham, New Hampshire. So here are some of our Stratham trails I'm running on. You can see not particularly technical, but the usual New England rocks and roots. So let's talk about the fit of our Brooks Cascadia 16. I'm running here in the woods in Stratham. This is kind of some of the smoother stuff. But in terms of fit, we have Gore-Tex Invisible Fit here. And what that means is the Gore-Tex membrane is laminated to the upper instead of being a booty that sort of sits inside. So it's a fairly stiff mesh as a result. Very dense, nothing's going to get through there. Debris or water. Incredibly well held heel. Very, very solid heel counter as I showed you there before. I laced them up once, the midfoot. Those laces are sort of almost hiking boot like and they work really well with this stiffer upper. Just a beautiful hold. Plenty of toe box room here for me, and I think most people. I am a half size up from my normal. I think I'd probably stay that way, actually, just because the upper's so supportive, the extra room would be good. I'm going to keep going, but really a superb upper for a heavy-duty trail shoe. Not overly constricting, not overly binding. Very supportive at the rear, the midfoot, and the front. You can see the toe bumper is kind of a softer material, not super stiff, which is good. I like that. Keeps the toes from kind of bumping. All done my run here in Stratham Hill Park. Let's talk about the Cascadia 16 and its ride. Some quick history. A gentleman by the name of Edward Tuck, who was a friend of Abraham Lincoln, donated the entire hill here, all 70 acres, in 1906. And now the park is, I think, close to 1,000 acres. Some's private land. Many beautiful single track running trails, and actually several brands actually test here, Boston area brands, because of the variety of the trails. So I took mine out for about 5.5, and let's talk about the ride here. This is a heavy duty trail shoe. You can see how substantial the heel counter is. We have our Invisible Fit, and I'm half size up. I'm kind of glad it gave a little bit of air room. And my feet were decently comfortable. It's in the upper 70s with Fahrenheit with about equivalent humidity. So a good test of that. Nothing wrong with the Invisible Fit, although you can see it's a pretty dense upper here. So even without it, this would be a fairly warm shoe. So the ride. Well, the key thing about the ride here is, and you won't be able to see it very well, is our DNA Loft V2. The V1 Loft is in shoes such as the Ghost, a very soft, the Glycerin, soft kind of, a little bit bouncy, very soft foam. This is a firmer foam. It's not as, there's a V3 in the Aurora, which is a supercritical, but this is just about an ideal trail shoe foam, I think, because it's dense, it has enough softness so there's cushion, and there's a nice bit of rebound to it. So it's stable also. I found it very stable on all the rocks and roots. I'll show you a few. It's not super technical, but it's very confidence inspiring, the whole platform. I also noticed that it developed some flex. I'll show you that. Okay, and there's sort of a, not a rocker, not a roll, but a very smooth flow forward from the 8mm drop. So it kind of handles all paces very nicely. Not a lot of big rocks, but some of my fellow testers all over confirm that the rock protection from the ballistic rock plate impenetrable here, but not so much that it gets in the way of the flexibility and the trail feel. So this isn't a shoe like the, for example, Endorphin Trail from Saucony, a beautiful shoe where you're just completely divorced from what's underfoot. It has a more rigid profile and that speed roll. Here it's a more kind of conventional feel in a way. You know where you're going, you know what it's feeling like, yet you're very well cushioned, very well protected. The outsole, a little bit of mud here and there, definitely grippy. I did notice on the road stretch, given that the foam in the midsole, and I'll show you, is kind of has some elastic return to it. It's not super soft, but it has kind of elastic return. But the contrast between the outsole and the midsole was a bit more striking than I like in a door-to trail shoe. You could really feel the firmness of the outsole. It didn't get in the way, just that the contrast between the two firmness, midsole and outsole, is a bit more noticeable. But you certainly can door-to trail in this, and all of our reviewers thought you can, and I certainly do too. So what's this shoe ideal for? Well, it replaces, if you will, even though it improved over the last few years, the prior Cascadias, which were really a kind of a hiker more than a runner. So it'll sit in the Brooks line as the heavy-duty all-around trail shoe with your Catamount, the speedy shoe, and the Caldera, sort of the ultra kind of smoother trail shoe. So this is the all-arounder. I certainly can see hiking in it, no question. White Mountains or anywhere else, there's enough really stout support at the rear, traction, wide enough platform. You could definitely hike in it too, so you could all around in that sense. If you're looking for a shoe for technical terrain, we all felt this is a superb choice. Yet on the smoother stuff today, it also flowed along very nicely. If there's any knock against the shoe, but you kind of weigh what you get for here, is the weight. So mine is 12 ounces in the Invisible Fit, and our regular one's 11 ounces. Not too bad, but you're getting a lot of protection, a lot of outsole, a lot of support, a lot of traction. So there's always a kind of some compromises. So coming in at 11 ounces when we have shoes considerably heavier in sort of the same class is really a good achievement by Brooks. Now, two shoes that immediately came to mind, and I'll do a few more comparisons. The Ultra Glide from Solomon, which is coming about the same time, beginning of August. Softer, bouncier, not quite as stable, sort of a bit more flexible, a bit more trail feel, with not quite the rock protection because it has kind of a foam insert. But the Energy Surge midsole is more energetic, that's for sure. And the door-to-trail performance of the Solomon is superior. So it's kind of a choice. It a bit depends on where you're running, what you need it for. I picked the Solomon over this for door-to-trail. More moderate trails up to semi-technical. This I would do just about anything I could imagine in. Another one, the Endorphin Trail from Saucony. That one has yet more underfoot protection without a rock plate from its PEBA midsole. It's wrapped in a kind of a mesh. It has also a very supportive upper. It's a different kind of ride. It's a rocker ride, so you kind of rock along. It's a bit better, I think, on the smooth than this shoe would be, and this would be better for your technical. I'm going to compare a few more right now. The Exodus 10, that's the last one I ran from Saucony, but the 11's just an upper update. That one also is kind of the heavy-duty one in the Saucony line. Going up against our Cascadia. A better kind of smoother, bouncier road ride. Very good technical chops. Maybe a bit more forgiving on the legs. A little bit less traditional. The Sense Ride 4 from Solomon is a direct competitor, about 0.8 of an ounce lighter. Its upper is supportive. I didn't test the 4, but I did the 3. I particularly like the lacing here on our Brooks over the quick laces and the a little bit livelier ride. So to conclude, the Cascadia becomes a trail runner while still keeping those hiking roots, finally at long last. So this is a very smooth flowing trail runner with a great new DNA Loft V2 midsole that has some energy and softness, a great outsole, and a fit that's superb in both versions, the non-Gore-Tex you see here, as well as the Gore-Tex that I tested. Please check out our multi-tester review of the Cascadia 16 at roadtrailrun.com. If you enjoyed the video, we hope you'll consider subscribing, and I wish you all a great run.